Commitment. All right? Most people go through life with a whole bunch of options at their disposal. Options to do this, options to do that. But the truth is, most people never really commit to anything. They dabble. All right? And when you dabble in life, you never really get much out of it. Okay? Because in order to truly achieve the best that you have to give, the best that you can give, you have to actually make a commitment. As the saying goes, there's a difference between interest and commitment. When you're interested, you'll do it when you want, if all things line up. When you're committed, you will find no excuses. All right? The dedicated heart will always find a way. The person who is just interested, any excuse is good enough for them to stop. And I've had the pleasure of working with quite a few people who were dedicated, who were committed to change. I'm looking at one right now, Laura Brown. I remember when me and Laura talked about 2 years ago. Laura, 71, had been a diabetic for 20 years, but she was committed to get off of her diabetic medication. And with a little bit of help and guidance, guess what? She did it. Was it easy? No, but she was committed. All right? Did she have people trying to dissuade her and discourage her, and tell her it wasn't possible? Yes, but she was committed. Okay? Once again, 71 years old, 20-year diabetic. The odds were definitely, if people were talking about, were not in her favor. But she had the most important odd in her favor, which was what? Commitment. Commitment. She had made a decision that she was going to do better for herself. And it didn't matter if she had to do it by herself. She did. Okay? And the same lies with you. All right? I always talk about self-respect and self-love when it comes down to giving ourselves the best that we can and should give ourselves. All right? A lot of people love to talk about, I love my kids. I'll do anything for my kids. But a lot of people are willing to do anything for their kids except set the best example of how to live, how to be, to present the best you so that they can understand what it looks like to strive for the best. It's kind of disingenuous when we try to inspire people and tell people to be their best when you yourself are not trying to be your best. I think that's one of the greatest things that a social media platform has done for me. All right? It has inspired me to always make sure that I must be my best because I'm an example. And I think there's no greater gift than to be an inspiration to people. When people can look at you and say, because of you, I. And it's not even about giving people money, because money comes and goes. Inspiration to be better, to light a fire in someone, to show someone that they're capable or better is capable for them, I think is massive. And we all have the power to inspire. I'm sure Laura has inspired people. I'm sure people like Cheryl Atkinson have inspired people. I know Cheryl was inspired by Deidre. Once again, it's the little things we do. Okay? It's the little things we do. But we have to create the life that is necessary. We have to create habits. I'm going to list out the things that one needs to do. Okay? The steps one needs to take in order to truly get the best out of yourself. Why are you not living your best life? Why? Because you have not committed to that. You have not dedicated to yourself to actually attaining that best out of yourself. It's just not going to happen. I was just talking to somebody yesterday. I was saying that especially as a man, we all start out basically as a man with no inherent value. Okay? The level of value that we attain as a man is going to be part and parcel with the amount of commitment we have, the amount of work, the amount of investment that we put into ourselves. And yes, getting the best out of yourself is going to take work, it's going to take consistency, it's going to take investment, it's going to take sacrifice. Okay? And one of the first places you want to start is you got to start by creating powerful habits. Habits. Your habits dictate your future. It's not fate that dictates your future. It's not your skills that dictate your future. It's not happenstance. It's habits. It's the little things you do on a daily basis. Those are the things that actually dictate your future. Your habits. Your habits have to actually draw you closer to your goals versus further from your goal. What habits do you have? Are your habits serving you? Look at yourself. Look at the things you do on a daily basis, right? I remember I always tell this story about, the thing my mother did to me when I was a kid. She called me in the kitchen. I'll never forget this. I can take you right back to the same spot when she had a paper bag on the table, and she said she had a bunch of limes and lemons. And she says, put as many limes in the bag as you can. Okay? And I, put the limes in the bag. And she said, now how many lemons can you get in there? And by that time, I could probably only get out about 2 or 3 lemons in the bag. She said, now that's your life. And the limes represent your good habits. The more good habits you get into your quote-unquote bag, first thing, the less room you have for bad habits. My mom was an advocate of getting up early. My mom didn't believe that even as a child that I had the right or should be sleeping past sunrise. She says it's too much to do. You're not going to lay in my house and let the sun rise up on you. You got to beat the sun up. You have to do stuff. So even though I grew up as a child with means, I had responsibilities. I had things that I had to get done before I left to go to school. One of those things was serving my parents their coffee, their tea, their breakfast in the morning. Yes, we had people that were employed to do that stuff, but I had to wake up and do it. I had to learn the habit of being up. I had to learn the habit of investing time. All right? Powerful habits. I always tell people, own the first 90 minutes of your day. What do most people do? People wake up just in the nick of time, just so they can brush their teeth, hopefully shower or whatever, and run out the door to work. And the moment you start your day by investing in other people, other things, being accountable to everyone else except yourself. And by the end of the day, that's when you want to work out. That's when you want to apply time to building the life you want with the scraps of your energy, with the scraps of your focus, with the scraps of your time. What if you reverse that? And in building your healthy habits, you constructed powerful habits first thing in the morning, in the first 90 minutes of the day, that actually propelled you towards the life you want, propelled you towards being better. I can tell you in the first 90 minutes of my day what I do. The first thing I do in the first 90 minutes of my day is to start my day off with water. Why? Because that helps my body. I cleanse my body. The next thing you do, I set my mind. I actually sit back and I meditate. I don't like talking first thing in the morning. All right? I meditate. I get my mind clear. What am I going to do today? The things I want to do, the things I think about things. All right? The next thing I do, I get my food ready. I plan out, what am I going to eat today? I make sure I have everything in place in order to do that. Actually, I have done that days before, right? Because you have to prepare for life, but that is also part of my preparation for the day. All right? The next thing after that is I get my body ready. Do a little stretching, a little exercise, that kind of stuff like that. So by the time I come on camera, by the time I come on camera, it's like 2.5 hours after I've been up. But I've already dedicated so much time to developing myself. Then I can pour out to you. But you cannot possibly grow yourself off of scraps. And the only way to grow yourself is to create powerful habits that propel you towards growth, towards getting better, towards that goal of being the better you that you want to be. Right? Powerful habits. You have to own the first 90 minutes of your day. What do you do with the first 90 minutes of your day? All right? How many limes are you putting in your bag before the lemons can make it in? Because that's what's going to dictate your life. That's what's dictated it thus far. All right? What are your habits? The next thing is accountability. Do you hold yourself accountable to the goals that you set for yourself, to the things that you say you want? Have you written them down? Do you adhere to them? Accountability is great because you know what? Especially if you can find an accountability partner. Okay? An accountability partner is everything. Okay? Because what it does, it gives you an impartial observer to hold you to what you said you were going to do. You said you were going to work out every day. Did you work out today? How are the workouts going? How's your eating going? Did you follow the plan that you said you were going to follow? You said you were going to drink water every day. Have you hit your water goals? Did you get your workout? All right? Have you eaten your salad? Did you do your fruit? It's the little goals, the little things that we set out for ourselves, those habits, right? But then holding yourself and having someone to hold you accountable to those very habits, those very goals that you set for yourself is immensely important. But let me tell you something else. And this is something that we have to keep in mind. Having an accountability partner is a blessing. But it's not a necessity. Because sometimes when we're embarking on good or great, we're going to have to do it by ourselves. And if you don't have an accountability partner, be accountable to yourself. Because at day's end, your better self is for you. Sometimes you're not going to have an accountability partner. And especially when you're trying to go from good to great. There's not a lot of company going from good to great. All right? When you start to rise above the fray, and I can tell you from personal experience, when I decided I wanted to get myself in a certain type of shape, when I started to really grow and invest in myself, when I started to actually whittle my $5 block of iron that I was to make more of myself, you get to a certain point where you pass what the average person thinks is necessary, acceptable, possible. And then you have people telling you like, well, how much better can you possibly get? You're already such and such. You're already doing such and such. You can't get any better than that. And sometimes you're going to have to be your own accountability partner. You're going to have to hold yourself more accountable to yourself. Why? Because there's a big gap between good and great. And there's just not a lot of company on the road to greatness, to the greatest you. And not necessarily greatness in a self-aggrandizing way, but to the greatest you, to the best possible you. How many people are actually walking around the best possible them? Not very many. So you cannot expect to have that much company, that much understanding, that much support when you're trying to go from good to great. When you're trying to go from poor or mediocre to average or even good, yes, there's a lot of people out there who want you to do good, who want you to, hey, at least come up to the line of where you can be, quote unquote, normal, what normal is. But you have to, what normal is regarded as, I should say. But when you start to go from that to above average, to good, right, the numbers keep getting less and less. And when you try to go from good to great, trust me, it's lonely as hell. It's not a lot of understanding. But that's not your problem. But it is your task. And that task has to be completed. So if you don't have an accountability partner, my friend, I will tell you, be your own accountability partner. Hold yourself accountable. Because you then will turn out being that very beacon that will drive some of the people in your circle to understand that good is not good enough if great is possible. And then you will have some people who will join you on the path to greatness, or their path. They will raise their bar of what is acceptable, of what is possible, of what is attainable. Because sometimes, guess what? People have to see you do it. Okay? People have to see you do it. I'm inspired by people. But there's not a lot of people out there to inspire when you're trying to go, like I said, between that gap. And that gap is big. It's lonely. It's cold. It's hard. But it's necessary. Okay? It is absolutely necessary. And the only way to bridge that gap, persistence. Persistence. If you look at anybody who is successful, all right? Most, in fact, anybody, I'm not even going to say most, anyone who is successful, it came with persistence. And a lot of times I think the biggest downfall, the biggest problem with the people who have attained a certain level of greatness, right, is that they don't tell the persistent story enough. They don't tell the consistency story enough. They don't talk about the failures, the knockdowns, the get-ups enough. A lot of times people think people who are at the top of the mountain just fell there. They just fell on the top of the mountain. All of a sudden they rich, they famous, they this, they that, all these things like that. And that's not how it happened. That's not how it happened. All right? And the list is long. Whether or not you believe the KFC story, right? Colonel Sanders, 99 times he did his presentation for his quote-unquote chicken formula. All right? He bought the chicken. He slept in his car. And 99 times he was rejected. Persistence. I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure whether or not it was actually the 100th time. I think it might be a little bit, 99 times and 100 times, it sounds great to say. It might have been 120, 121, 117. It might have been 89. Either way, persistence, consistency. That's why we have what we have today with KFC. Not that I'm a fan of KFC, but I am a fan of persistence. I'm a fan of greatness. I'm a fan of consistency. I'm a fan of hitting a goal and not being deterred. J.K. Rowling. How many times her books were turned down? You know how broke she got in the process? She could have easily given up. But when you actually are striving for greatness, that's not what happens. You don't give up. You don't. You keep pressing. You keep coming back. And every time you come back, that's another thing about the word consistency. I would like to use that word dynamic consistency. Because consistency, sometimes people just keep coming back and doing the same thing over and over. No, that's not what it means. Dynamic consistency means every time you come back with the same energy, but you come back with better skills, better perspective. You learn from your mistakes. You learn from the losses. You learn from the 99 times you failed. And that's how you hit that time where you're successful. And everybody thinks, oh, he was lucky. There's no such thing as luck. All right? No such thing as luck. Jeff Bezos. Everybody loves to talk about how rich Jeff Bezos is, right? How many people know the story that Jeff Bezos almost went bankrupt? He was down to his last $35,000. $35,000, I believe? Yeah, $35,000. Had enough to pay payroll for Amazon for one more week. His dream. One more week. It wasn't 35. I think it was 3,500. And as opposed to giving up, he bet on himself. And the story goes, whether we believe it or not, goes to the casino and bets on his capacity to be able to play blackjack or whatever. He wins $35,000. He's able to extend and give his business life for another 6 weeks, and that's when they, bam, hit their first. And now we have Amazon. Started off in a garage with an idea. He invested in himself. He believed. And I'm sure many of people would have bailed, gone with plan B. All right. What are you willing to commit to? Or better yet, are you willing to commit to yourself? Because this is what it's all about. It's committing to yourself. It's about committing to be the best you that you can be. This is not a competition with anyone. We all have a different path. We all have different possibilities. We all have different versions or ideas of what success is, as long as you are happy with your success. But if you're not happy with where you are, then you owe yourself commitment. You owe yourself accountability. You owe yourself to be consistent. And when it comes down to setting your goals, I always tell people, don't try to go from 0 to 100. The goal is to just beat yesterday, get a little bit better. That's what consistency is all about. Showing up but learning from every single day, every single mistake, every single win, every single encounter, every single conversation, growing yourself in all facets of life, whether it's spiritually, whether it's intellectually, whether it's socially, physically, making yourself better in all facets of life so that then you can actually truthfully pursue and attain the goals that are worthy of you, the goals that will make you a success to yourself. It doesn't matter what other people think. It matters what you truly believe. All right? Do you believe that this is the best you that you can give? Is this the best you that you have to offer to yourself? Because remember, this is about you. This is going to be about you and your satisfaction with you. All right? Are you willing to commit to yourself? Because unless you're willing to commit, everything else is just a promise, usually an empty promise. All right? People always say, I'm looking for something to motivate me. No one can motivate you. And plus, why do you even want motivation? When purpose and commitment is way more powerful. Motivation fades in and out every day. I'm not motivated to do stuff every day. Some days are better than others when it comes down to motivation. But commitment is steady. Commitment is an obligation. I have a commitment. When someone says, I have a commitment today, when you say, I have a commitment, and that commitment is to yourself, you hold yourself in high regard. I always say you have to have a list of gotta-dos. I have a list of gotta-dos every single day. And those gotta-dos dictate who I am. They have, at least for a long time. They dictate who I am. And the stronger my gotta-dos, the stronger my commitment to fulfill those things that I have to do for myself, the faster and the more direct my path becomes to getting to who and what I desire to become. But once again, this is commitment that I made to myself. Are you going to commit to yourself? Because that's where your transformation is. The little things, the little habits, that first 90 minutes are the things you do pro-goal or anti-goal. How many limes are you putting in your bag first thing in the morning? That's what's going to dictate it. Something to think about, right?